Once hailed as Canada's darling, Justin Trudeau's political star has plummeted dramatically. Once celebrated for his charisma and progressive agenda, he now finds himself, as Donald Trump mocked, more akin to a governor of the great state of Canada. His deputy prime minister has abruptly resigned, his approval ratings have plunged to an all-time low, and the calls for his resignation are growing louder. The once unshakable leader of the Liberal Party now faces an unprecedented crisis that could mark the end of his nearly decade-long tenure. So, what led to this stunning fall? Let's break it down. According to the latest December polling from Angus Reid, Trudeau's net approval rating has hit an all-time low of -40. Meanwhile, polling data from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation indicates that the Liberals are now 20 points behind the Conservatives, widening from a 17-point gap in mid-November. If these trends hold, the Liberals could secure as few as 50 seats in the next election, a dismal outlook under Canada's first-past-the-post electoral system. The situation escalated on Monday when Chrystia Freeland, Trudeau's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, resigned. These developments have intensified calls for Trudeau to step down or call a snap election. At the moment, Trudeau is the least popular leader of a major economy. Several factors, both local and global, have contributed to this decline. First, there's incumbency fatigue. Trudeau has been in power since 2015, approaching a decade in office, a long tenure by modern standards. Second, inflation has proven politically toxic for governments worldwide, including Canada. However, two uniquely Canadian issues, the housing crisis and immigration, have played a pivotal role in Trudeau's unpopularity. Despite his efforts, things are getting worse by the day. Since Trudeau assumed office in 2015, Canadian house prices have surged nearly 70%, the sharpest increase among comparable OECD nations. Today, the average Canadian home costs over 7 LAC Canadian dollars. The ratio of median house prices to median wages has risen from 3 in 1990 to nearly 6 today, climbing as high as 9 in Toronto and 12 in Vancouver. This crisis is partly driven by insufficient housing supply. While Canada's population has grown significantly, the number of new homes being built has failed to keep pace, and immigrants also make things worse in the given circumstances. Canada's immigration numbers have skyrocketed in recent years. While permanent residency numbers have risen, the more significant surge has come from the non-permanent resident population, now comprising 7.3% of Canada's total population. At first glance, Canada's post-pandemic economic recovery appears strong, with GDP growth outpacing most G7 nations. However, this growth is largely attributable to high immigration levels. GDP per capita, a more accurate measure of economic health, has fallen for 2 consecutive years and is now at 2014 levels. While Canadians broadly support immigration, the strain on housing markets and perceptions of wage suppression by temporary workers have fueled calls for reduced migration levels. In response, Trudeau pledged to increase housing construction and cut immigration, focusing on limiting international students and foreign worker visas. However, neither initiative has been able to resolve the issue. Annual housing construction remains well below targets, and immigration levels remain high. These issues have alienated both ends of the political spectrum. Right-leaning Canadians are frustrated with Trudeau's focus on identity politics and environmental policies like the carbon tax. Meanwhile, left-leaning Canadians view the housing crisis as deepening inequality and criticize the temporary worker program as exploitative. While Trudeau's troubles have been brewing for years, the last 6 weeks have been particularly damaging. In November, newly elected U.S. President Donald Trump announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian goods and made a tongue-in-cheek comment about Canada becoming the 51st U.S. state, with Trudeau as governor. Domestically, a strike by the Canadian Union of Postal Workers led to government intervention, ordering workers back on the job, a move criticized by labor groups. Trudeau's attempts to woo voters with financial relief measures have also backfired. He announced a 2-month Christmas tax holiday on items like alcohol and candy, and proposed a $250 rebate for Canadians earning less than 1.5 lakh annually. While these measures might seem voter-friendly, a poll by Leger revealed that 70% of Canadians viewed them as blatant electioneering, with only a third believing they would improve their finances in any meaningful way. Adding to the turmoil, Chrystia Freeland resigned after a disagreement disagreement with Trudeau over his financial policies. In her resignation letter, Freeland implied doubts about Trudeau's ability to handle Trump and his economic policies. Later that day, the finance ministry announced that the national deficit had ballooned to $61.9 billion, far exceeding the government's $40 billion target. This cast further doubt on the fiscal outlook of Trudeau's recent initiatives, which have cost taxpayers $6 billion. The day ended with another blow. The Conservatives flipped a Liberal seat in a British Columbia by-election, marking the third loss in previously considered safe Liberal strongholds this year. Following all the recent events, speculation about Trudeau's resignation has been mounting, but an immediate departure seems unlikely. Trudeau has weathered previous by-election losses and moved swiftly to appoint Dominic LeBlanc as the new finance minister, although the role of deputy prime minister remains vacant. Even if Trudeau opts to stay in power, his government could face a no-confidence motion in Parliament. The Conservatives and Bloc Québécois have called for an early election in 2025, while NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has urged Trudeau to resign. However, Singh has stopped short of supporting a no-confidence motion, stating that all options are on the table. The Liberals' prospects for the next election, scheduled for October at the latest, remain bleak. Prospective leadership contenders may wait for the 2029 election, rather than take on the daunting challenge of salvaging the party's fortunes soon. If Trudeau chooses to remain as leader, he'll need to rebuild unity within his fractured Liberal Party as the clock ticks toward a looming election. One option he has is to prorogue Parliament, formally ending the current session without dissolving it. This move would buy him some breathing room, staving off a no-confidence vote and allowing his government to reset with a new legislative agenda. However, it would also delay the House of Commons' return by several weeks, a decision that could be perceived as political maneuvering. That said, the odds of Canadians heading to the polls early have risen significantly this week. Trudeau holds the power to dissolve Parliament and call an election at any moment, leaving his political future in the hands of voters. However, he would face an uphill battle with federal election campaigns in Canada lasting just 37 to 51 days. Trudeau's political future hangs in the balance. Whether he steps aside, calls an early election, or fights to retain power, the coming months will be critical for his leadership and the Liberal Party's survival. The Conservatives and the Bloc Québécois have consistently supported every no-confidence motion brought to the House of Commons. However, Trudeau's saving grace was the New Democratic Party, which repeatedly came to his rescue. This support is crucial, as the opposition lacks the numbers to topple Trudeau's minority government without the NDP's backing. Still, even if Trudeau manages to cling to power for now, he's merely delaying an inevitable defeat. The pressing question isn't whether Trudeau will lose, it's how devastating the loss will be. The situation is one that political analysts and Canadians alike will be watching closely.